What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, and on this week's show, excited to have former New York Guardians offensive lineman Derek Dennis. He joins the show. We talk about how he got into football, life in the XFL, how he got from the CFL to the XFL, and of course his contract status and his thoughts on him with the Edmonton Elks. He's got all of that and plus an exciting announcement. We'll talk about that as well. So if you want to be part of the show, remember to contact us. Email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. And remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. We appreciate that. Plus, make sure you smash the like and subscribe button. Give us a like on Facebook. We're live on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube as well. So give us a subscribe and smash that like button. We really appreciate that. That gets the word out about the show and everything like that. So man, what a weekend. First of all, for XFL News Hub and CFL News Hub and all my sites, they were basically server issues all weekend long up till 3 o'clock in the morning twice. They seem to finally, I got a hold of somebody in support with Microsoft. We use Azure to host our websites. We have a big honking system, able to kind of narrow down what the problem was, and seems like all systems are go. And actually, I think the sites were kind of slow the last couple weeks, and would crash and then come back on. I think we kind of not only narrowed it down, but also upgraded and tweaked all of the sites so that they load a lot faster. It seems to be very snappy right now, which has been good. So it's a blessing in disguise because we have the CFL season right around the corner. I'd rather deal with that over the weekend than have to deal with that during the first night of play on Thursday, which I'm super excited about that. I hope you're super excited about that. Question of the week: are you all in for the USFL, or is it kind of a wait and see? We get your reaction to that on the social media stuff. And then next week's question of the week, which I'm really interested in: are you going to watch the CFL? And your thoughts on the first weeks of games. So we have that. We'll get into the news. We'll get into, because it does deal with the CFL, because they just had their rosters are all set. Mike Mitchell has a great article about the players that made the cut. We'll go over that. And then we'll get into some other news. And then we'll get into our very interesting interview with Derek Dennis. So without further ado, let's just get into some news, shall we? All right, first up, our own Mike Mitchell has some news on former XFL players who made the 2021 CFL rosters. Let's see. So a lot of American players decided to, at least XFL players, decided to make their way up north to play in the CFL, even with kind of questions of what's going on. He says there were 57 former XFL players in the Canadian League, plus a massive purge by all 9 teams from nearly 100 total players per franchise, has left very few still standing in recent days. On the bright side, there's some taxi squad, practice squad rosters, that kind of thing. So XFL players on CFL regular season rosters, there's 57 of them. James Butler from the Houston Rednecks, Kent Perkins, Battlehawks, Obum Guanchum from the Vipers. They're on the BC Lions practice squad. Has got Nadir Rouse. Calgary Stampeders, Gerald Owens from the Guardians, Jameer Thurman from the DC Defenders. And on the practice squad, you got Marcel Branch, Jordan Morgan, Dan Williams, taxi squad, and Nick Hawley from the Roughnecks. One guy that fans were interested in seeing how he played out. He is on the practice squad of the Calgary Stampeders. Now, another thing to keep in mind with all of this stuff is that it could be what as a problem, plus injuries. So these guys, just don't count them out just yet as like, oh, I guess they're not going to play at all. It's a long 14-week season. Remember, that season is longer than the XFL's season. And with basically no hitting going on in camp, there's going to be injuries. And with what still out there, who knows what that's going to entail too. So those things. So don't count these guys out yet. Maybe this will help you figure out who you're going to root for. Edmonton Elks got Niles Morgan, Taylor Cornelius, Armonte Edwards, Renegades, and DeAndre Wesley. They're on the active roster, so Taylor Cornelius, not sure where he's on the depth chart. Jalen Tolliver from the Vipers and Andrew Akra from St. Louis Battlehawks are on the practice squad. Saskatchewan's got A.J. Hendy from the Guardians. Practice squad, DeMarcus Gates. What? And suspended list Sammy Coates, both from the Roughnecks. DeMarcus Gates, man, he was my favorite defensive player in the XFL. He's on the practice squad. Now, one thing you're just kind of like, what? But then it shows you the level of talent that's in the CFL, too, just to kind of give you an idea. Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they got Dietrich Nichols from the Roughnecks, Casey Sales from Battlehawks, Ricky Walker, Virginia Tech, I believe, Tampa Bay Vipers, Carlton Aguaso from the Battlehawks, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Got Des Lawrence from the DC Defenders and Channing Stribbing from the Seattle Dragons. Good players there. Stephen Dunbar, John Yarborough, and Anthony Kelly are on the practice squad. We'll get into where Cam Phillips is, if you're wondering. Montreal Alouettes, Cameron Artis-Payne from the Renegades, Wesley Sutton, New York Guardians, Trey Watson, Dallas Renegades. They got 5 on the practice squad. Rashard Ross is a good player with the Defenders. Nick Callender of the Roughnecks. And on the suspended list is Jermaine Ponder and Prince Charles Awa. He was on Team 9. Ottawa Red Blacks, Jordan Smallwood of the Wildcats, Juan Bushell Beatty on the Roughnecks, and Natil Rogers from the Vipers are on the active roster. Quarterback Tyron Crinston of the Wildcats and Davon Grayson of the Battlehawks are on the practice squad. On the Toronto Argonauts. So Cam Phillips got cut from my Hamilton Tiger Cats and now is on the Toronto Argonauts. He got picked up and he's on the active roster. So the Argos have got a ton of XFL. If you have no team to root for and you're a spring football fan, and we know there's tons of you out there. If you and you're an XFL fan and you're like, I don't know what team to root for, your Toronto Argonauts, not only because of that potential rumor, whatever, we'll see if that ever transpires, but there's a 10 XFL players on the Toronto Argonauts. You got Cam Phillips. Man, I wanted him on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Daniel Braverman, Adrian Allen, Terry Poole, Keon Ely from the Houston Roughnecks. Sean Oakman, you know that name from the Wildcats. Dwayne Hendricks was a good player, the Battlehawks. Derek McCoyle, Battlehawks, and Tristan DeCoud of the Renegades. And then Richard Cleet from the Renegades is on the practice squad. So in total, 47 total players who played in the XFL in 2020 are currently on CFL active and practice team rosters. 29 players are on the active regular season rosters and 18 on practice rosters. So the breakdown is Houston Roughnecks with 9, Battlehawks with 9, Vipers with 9, Renegades with 6, Defenders with 5, Guardians 4, Wildcats 3, Seattle Dragons just 2. The Argonauts lead the pack, of course, with 10 XFL players. Elks have 2 former Tampa Bay Viper players, Taylor Cornelius and Jalen Tolliver, not surprising considering the team's coached by Vipers coordinator Jamie Elizondo. So there you have it. There are all your XFL players on rosters in the CFL. Speaking of that, we all know now that former Roughnecks Cam Phillips, he signed with the Argonauts, so he was cut and really quickly picked up by the Argonauts. So, and he's on the active roster, not on the practice squad. He's on there. So we'll see maybe if he gets some playing time. I just can't see how Cam Phillips would not do well in the CFL. I don't understand. But if you need a team to follow, there you got it. Cam Phillips and the Toronto Argonauts. That's the team to follow in the CFL. And some other news, not shocking here. MLFB shuts door for 2021. Seats announces push for spring of 2022. No surprise here. Major League Football released its annual 10K filing on Thursday, outlining all the things financial, good and bad, plus the updates from around the league's push to hit the field. Per the report, the league has decided to shut the door for 2021 summer demo season and make a push for hitting the field in 2022. Management and our board of directors believe the cost-reward ratio and time challenges dictated that we allocate these resources to our planned 2022 football season. The release also mentions the league has secured a line of credit in the amount of $1 million. This is a key because the league plans to operate under the mark of $30 million, mostly because of the pitfalls trying to put out a high-priced product, especially year one could be killer. The plan for 2021 was always a small demo season with 4 teams to play 3 games each. Since that's been scrapped, the league will begin its path to a full 8-team season in 2022. CEO Frank Murtha says the league will be hiring coaches and executives soon as part of the grants and allocation they receive have already earmarked that for that purpose. So they plan on hiring. The USFL has got its thing going on. We'll see what happens there. In other news, real quick, former Vipers wide receiver Reese Horn, he signed with the Bengals. That's pretty cool. Congratulations on them. He recently played in the Spring League for the Linemen. Did pretty good there. And Washington signed former Guardians defensive end Boumani Rotimi. He gets signed there. Also another guy who played in the Spring League as well. And some other news. Savion Smith got waived by the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see what happens. All these waiver moves could come with a catch. He's been bouncing around teams all last season in the NFL. We'll see if he gets picked up again. But this is the normal life. What's happened to Savion Smith with a lot of players is you get picked up, you get dropped. You get picked up again, gets picked up by another team. This is how it goes in the life of a pro football player for most of them. So with that, we'll get into our commercial break and we'll get into our interview with Derek Dennis right after this. Stay tuned. Oh, and say hello to all my friends on the live on the chats. We'll get to you guys later on in the show.
This week on the Markcast, technical difficulties aside, screw it. We're going to do it anyway. We'll do it live, right? We'll do it live. What do we got going on, Reed?
Big show this week. We got your CFL and XFL stuff. We were a CFL podcast last week. Now viewership, guys. You want the CFL stuff. So we've got a big show today. We have Ed Tate. He's covering the Blue Bombers, Canadian Football League Hall of Fame member.
When you lose a season, it's devastating, and you start to worry about your own job and your future, and so just to get to this point again is exciting, and you can feel it in town. Ticket sales are going well.
We have Joey Alfieri coming on. Joey covers the Montreal Alouettes for TSN 690. Very excited to get Joey on.
I think the story I'm tracking the most here early on in the season is sloppiness / injuries. I'm curious to see if the guys can jump back into a game scenario and stay relatively healthy.
And then this is exciting for me as a longtime VIP Torch subscriber. We have Greg Parks, who writes for XFL Board, even though they blocked all of us on Twitter.
It could be that they just don't have anything to talk about. And, that in and of itself seems to me to be a problem a year into this thing, and to still not really have made any gains that you can talk about.
Greg Parks has come on the show to talk. Does the XFL have a PR problem? Paul, does the XFL have a PR problem?
I think so. And the way you're marking out for Greg Parks right now, I got to say one thing to you.
Oh, hi, Mark.
But lots of other good stuff, CFL training camp stuff. We booked our trips to the Grey Cup. We're getting ready. I'm going to Hawaii. We have some big guests coming up on the show. Rhymes with Gabe Baylor.
Oh, we're going to do that. We're going to go there. We're going to grab him. Hopefully other people will grab other people when we actually get that person on our show. That's all coming up this week. Anything else you wanted to add before we...
I think we've done good today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.
All right. We're here with offensive lineman Derek Dennis. He played in the NFL. He played in the CFL, and particularly he's played in the XFL. What people might not know about it, the XFL fans might not know about him. He's a three-time All-Star, 2018 Grey Cup champion, was part of many awards throughout your career in the CFL. So thanks for being on the show.
No, I appreciate you having me on, Mark. Thanks.
Sure. So I always ask my guests, what's their superhero origin story? So how did you get from kid in high school all the way to playing in not only the NFL, but the CFL and XFL as well?
Essentially my origin story started like most, football guys, especially bigger guys. I grew up in New York City. Originally from Queens, New York, if you can't tell by the shirt.
Okay, I'm from
Queens,
Long Island, so we got a little
Okay.
New York connection there.
Yeah. So I'm originally born and raised in Queens, New York. Bounced around New York. My parents finally decided to move outside the city north into like Westchester, Dutchess County, those areas. So that's where I spent the majority of my high school years. I attended the same high school as Elton Brand. So Elton Brand's big basketball star come out of New York. I went to the same high school as him. And I pretty much grew up playing basketball. So, I mean, my first love, my first sport has always been basketball. As you know, growing up in New York, man, it's basketball courts on every corner, right? But it's not too many football fields. So football's not a real big sport in the state of New York, especially in that southern part of New York. So, I always grew up a basketball player. I always thought I was going to be the next Charles Barkley or something like that, right? So
Charles Oakley, if you're going with the New York Knicks.
Yeah, Charles Oakley. Actually, you know what? One of my big influences growing up was Ron Artest. Ron Artest is a fellow Queens native.
Oh, yeah.
And
St.
people
John's.
people used to always compare me to him.
Oh, really?
Growing up. Yeah, people used to compare me to him and Anthony Mason, those type of players, right? So, those were the guys I kind of modeled myself after playing the game of basketball. So, I kind of just thought I was, go on to play basketball, play pro sports. The dream was always NBA. I was a big Shaq fan growing up too. So that's really like my origin story. Is I started playing basketball, and I remember AAU coach I was playing for a very popular AAU team in New York. He coached football at a local Catholic high school. It was named Holy Cross in Queens, New York. So I remember one day we was at basketball practice, and he asked me, he was like, "Hey, Derek, do you play football?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I just played this past season in high school just for fun, just to kind of pass the time to see how things went." And he was like, "Yeah, just give me some film and just so I could take a look at you, see what you look like, right?" And I ended up playing Holy Cross that season in basketball. So what he did was he took a mashup of my basketball clips. He took a mashup of the football tapes. I gave him like 3 games. He made a highlight tape out of it, and it sent it out to schools, unbeknownst to me. I had no clue. And then next thing I know, I started getting recruiting letters from like Penn State, Boston College, University of Virginia for football. And I'm like, football? I don't even really like play football for real. Like, how are they recruiting me for football? And that's essentially kind of like how I started my ascension into playing football. I ended up, leaving my high school, going to prep school. My prep school coach kind of basically talked me into not wanting to pursue basketball in college, but pursue football. And then I ended up at Temple University, and rest is history.
Gotcha. Now, was PJ Walker at Temple? No.
PJ was way after me, so I'm more like the old head to PJ. Like that's little bro, man. I have a great relationship with him. He's a good dude, man. I'm super proud of him and what he's doing in his career. But he was like maybe 5-6 years after me.
Oh, okay. And then so you played at Temple, and then how did you make your way into the NFL?
Basically, man, I had a good career at Temple. Started as a freshman. I went into Temple thinking I was going to be a D lineman or a tight end because that's what I played in high school.
Okay.
And they basically told me like, yeah, you're going to play offensive line. So I was like, I don't play offensive line. Like I've never had no previous knowledge to it. And they just had me bouncing around, man. I kind of became like a utility lineman. So I played every position in the O-line. I played left tackle, right guard, left guard, center. I played it all. And they pretty much used to always just kind of plug me in to where like the weakness was. So if we had a certain spot in the O-line where other guys were better and there was one true glaring weakness, then it was, hey, put Derek there. He'll make it right type of thing. So I had a pretty good college career. I ended up going into my senior year. I was actually rated like the number 2 senior offensive guard going into my senior season. And then things just kind of didn't, play out the way it was supposed to. I was getting like pre-draft projections. I was supposed to be like a second round pick, stuff like that. So I'm, heads getting big. I'm thinking I'm gonna be an NFL superstar type of stuff, and things just, didn't pan out that way. But I still got the opportunity to go, end up going undrafted. Bounced around for about 3.5 years with a couple teams, just didn't materialize, and then I made my way up to Canada and kind of made a name for myself.
Yeah. So what was the decision behind going to Canada? Was it like, hey, let me just give this a try and see what happens? I mean, some players, especially in the United States, like they'll bounce around a couple NFL teams and then they're like, that's it. Like we don't see, not everybody automatically goes to Canada to play in the CFL.
Right.
So why did you kind of make that jump?
It was a last ditch effort, man. I love playing the game. I wanted to do it for a living and experience and kind of get a chance to really show people what I could do. Right. I've always felt like I got the short end of the stick in my time in NFL when I would always be outperforming guys, but I just never got the opportunity for the other political reasons why, rosters, veterans, money, that type of stuff. Right. So I knew I was talented. I knew I was good enough to play pro football. I just was looking for an opportunity. Right. And the CFL just came like a last ditch for me. I had just finished a stint playing arena ball. And, I had a few NFL workouts, nothing turned into a contract. So the NFL thing was looking pretty grim. Right. So, I actually had a good buddy. My best friend from college played in Canada. He was an offensive lineman too. His name was Andre Douglas. He played in Winnipeg for a couple of years. He used to always like him. And then I had another teammate too named Devin Tyler, both of them O-linemen. They used to always like be in my ear, like, yo, bro, you should go up to Canada. Like you'll kill it up there. You'll be really good. And I was always like every other American player, like, nah, I don't want to go to Canada. I want to, NFL or bust type of thing. So finally, after I did the arena thing and I knew I didn't want to do that again, it was just kind of figuring out, where's my last opportunity that I could play football and make a name for myself. Right. So, I hit up my agent at the time, told him, hey, you got any connects in Canada, possibly somebody that might want to bring me in. It was in the middle of the 2015 season. Calgary had a bunch of injuries on their O-line, and they were looking for O-linemen to come in to see like what materialized. And they, ended up watching some of my NFL preseason games, like what they saw, brought me in, gave me the opportunity to play tackle again, which I hadn't played since college. And got a chance to start the very next week, and the rest was history.
Yeah. So, I mean, then you go in there, you were all-star, you won a Grey Cup, all this stuff. And then the XFL starts to come around. And in the beginning of the XFL, your name wasn't out there, but then you kind of joined you were on Team 9 for a stint there and then moved to the New York Guardians. Like, how did that all work out? Well, first, like, what was your reaction when you heard about the XFL coming? And let's talk about the Vince McMahon era and Oliver Luck. What was your thoughts there, playing in Canada and having a successful career in Canada? But then this XFL comes around.
Yeah. So essentially, after the 2019 season in Canada, I was hitting free agency, thinking I was, going to be, big fish, small pond type of situation like I was in a couple years before that, coming off of 2 all-star seasons, thinking, I was going to have, some options to still continue my career. And teams just wasn't really trying to touch me for whatever reasons, either be price range or how they were trying to figure out their roster. Some teams were telling me they didn't want to sign any O-line free agents. And again, too, in Canada, it's only 9 teams, right? It's not really many opportunities to, like you would get in the NFL where you got 30 something teams, or, you're going to find one place that's probably give you a shot. Right. So nobody was really trying to touch me at the time. And I just didn't want to sit around at home, man. I needed to, play. I needed to, football was my livelihood. That's how I paid for all my, necessities and took care of my family. So I just, in my mind, when it didn't materialize, it was like, okay, like I did with Canada. Well, what's out there? Luckily, the XFL was going. I knew a lot of guys who played in the AAF and the XFL, and just kind of asking them. Another one of my best friends was a player in the XFL, Evan Rodriguez. I think he played with the Seattle Dragons. So I knew guys that were in the league. I knew guys that were doing it, and I think it was actually one previous CFL All-Star and S.J. Green who did it, right? So when I saw he did it, it was kind of like, okay, let me see what's there. And luckily, my agent had a connection with the player development guy, Eric Galco, at the time. Yep. had a conversation with Eric. Eric remembered me from my college days. So he was like, "Oh, Derek wants to come play. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, we'll find a space. We'll find a spot for him." And at the time, I think after the first 2 weeks of the season, it was every new acquisition by the league had to go to Team 9 first, just to kind of get themselves prepped for live football. It was like kind of like experimental thing where their thing was, all right, instead of bringing a guy off the street and sending him straight to the team and then possibly risking injury, well, let's send him somewhere to kind of be like a pre-camp in a sense, because he didn't do training camp. It's kind of like a pre-camp. Send him to a place where he could just get back into the swing of a football practice, get back into the grind of lifting and doing all the stuff that you do during football season. And then pretty much Team 9 was like a free agent team. So any team, if they saw somebody on the Team 9 that they wanted to come and play, they could just pluck them off of Team 9, right? So and you had to be on Team 9 in order to sign with an XFL team. Like that was the thing. You couldn't sign dudes off the street. You had to the league had to bring dudes into Team 9, and then teams had to pluck dudes off of Team 9. That's how it worked. So that's why I had to go to Team 9 first. When I first joined the league, I was there for maybe 4 or 5 days before the I think it was like 4 or 5 teams put in a claim for me. And I think the teams that really wanted me was Seattle. I spoke to Seattle. I don't think I remember speaking to anybody from New York, but I remember speaking to Seattle, and it was another team. I can't remember. I think it was Tampa. And then they were trying to get me to come in. I guess how it worked was whoever had the worst record at the time had first dibs, or whoever put the claim in. So when the claim was put in for me, New York was the team that was struggling early in the year, didn't have any wins, still trying to find their identity, right? So I ended up going to New York, which was a blessing in disguise because I'm from New York. Like you said, like we said, I'm from New York. I got a chance to go play ball right in my backyard and be close to family, go home and see my family, my mom, dad, sisters every day. So it was fun, man. I enjoyed it, man. It was one of those opportunities where I didn't see it coming, but when it did come, it was like a blessing in disguise. Got me a chance to get back home, get back around my surroundings, get a chance to play pro football in my backyard and have, all my family and friends come and see me. Unfortunately, COVID cut everything short before we could really kind of see it hit full steam and become what it could have became. But I think that's why it still has a chance to still be in existence, because I think those 5 weeks really showed people the opportunity of what spring football can do if done properly.
Yeah. Now, what was your reaction did you feel like the league was organized? How would you compare the XFL, even though you were there for a very short time, with the CFL as far as organization goes? How they treated their players, because the pay, even though CFL players sort of make more, but they also play in more games, there was how is those two things different?
I don't think it was too much different. I mean, especially too, like the XFL had the opportunity to, if there was a player that they really wanted, they had the ability to pay them whatever they wanted to pay them, right? And I think that was probably some of the stick with any football league. It's like that in the CFL too. A lot of guys are disgruntled because maybe quarterbacks or certain players may make 4, 5, 6 times more than what the normal people on the roster are going to make, right? But that's just the nature of the business, right? In the NFL, you got guys who make 40 million and guys who only make 600,000, right? So that's just how it works, right? So for me, it was more like they really saw the value in me, and they was like, hey, you know what? If you want to come and do this, we'll make it worth your time, take care of you, do the things you need to do to make you feel like a pro football player and do what you need to do. Right. So it wasn't a bad situation for me. I got a chance to kind of get in there, get treated properly. It didn't feel no different than being in the CFL to me. It's kind of that same feel, how it was structured and how it was moving. I mean, granted, it was a new startup league, so they didn't have like set up in the sense of having their own facilities, but the way they went about making sure that accommodations were there for guys to be able to do what they needed to do and get done what they needed to get done. It wasn't nothing, it wasn't nothing that I didn't experience. Again, I played arena, so arenas, how they move, it was no different than, it was kind of like a good mix of like how you move in arena, how you move in the CFL. So it wasn't nothing that I wasn't around that it didn't throw me for a loop. It was like, oh, what are they doing? Why is it like this type of thing? It's just, nobody has the money that the NFL does to have the type of amenities and resources that they have available to them, right? So as a second tier pro football player, there's certain things that you're going to have to learn to live with, right? So I think the experience it was great, man. Honestly, I don't have any negative things to say about it. I met some great people in terms of coaches. I met some great people in terms of players, great people in terms of, just being around the city and community and people who were becoming fans of the league. And like I said, me being from New York, a lot of people were just super excited to see me back home and be able to be a pro football player from the area that, that they could see up close and personal. So it was a really good situation, man. Honestly, I wish, things didn't go the way it did with COVID, because it would have been, I think that next game I was going to start. We were going to play Houston. Houston was the number one team in the league.
Yeah.
And I had about, I want to say like 5,000 people asking me for tickets to come to the game. Right. So like me alone, I was going to put some fans in the stands from New York because the people were just happy to see me back home. So that was the type of, environment and atmosphere that it created. Right. And you got a chance to play in the NFL stadium at MetLife. It's a top notch facility, man. Most people don't, I've been playing in pro stadiums essentially my whole football career since college. I played at the Link, all in college at Temple. Got a chance to play in in the league in big stadiums, and then still my experience in other leagues, still playing in big stadiums. When I played arena, we played at the Phoenix Suns arena, so I was always used to being in big venues and being in big arenas. So I mean, it was enjoyable, man. I have nothing negative to say about what the XFL brought and what it was.
Yeah. Well, what about working with a guy like Kevin Gilbride? Now, growing up in New York, were you a Giants fan or a Jets fan?
I was a Jets fan, to be real, but my dad was a Giants fan.
Okay.
And I remember like my first football game I ever went to, live football game, my dad took me to see the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants in Philly. And that was when we had Tiki Barber.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the Giants were like on their way to being like, what they were, right? So
yeah.
I remember, being a kid and cheering for Tiki Barber. I think Tiki Barber scored like 3 touchdowns that game against the Eagles. And that's when my first introduction to Philly fans before college, when I realized how intense Philly fans are. I was like a 8-9-year-old kid getting dinged in the head with a hot dog covered in mustard because I was cheering for Tiki Barber. Like that's how intense Philly fans are.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So that was I grew up a Jets fan, but I know definitely everybody around me was Giants. It was kind of selective, man. Some people wanted to cheer for both teams. It was like it's a New York thing. New York has so much pride in everything that we do, and especially in our sports teams, like it's always going to be a mix. You're going to see some people now. You got Knicks, you got Brooklyn Nets fans, you got Yankees fans, you got Mets fans, you got Islanders fans, you got Rangers fans. Like we have so many choices for who we want to root for. It's kind of like it's a dealer's choice. So but I grew up a Jets fan.
So working with Kevin Gilbride, though, won a Super Bowl with the Giants. How is that working with him? As far, talking about a top echelon offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
What was it like working with him?
I love working with Coach Gilbride. Actually, his son was a coach at Temple when I was there.
Oh.
So I actually played for his son, Kevin Gilbride Jr. And I knew a lot about him just, from his son talking about him. And that was when he was with the Giants and stuff like that. So I remember first time, Coach Gilbride walked up to me to speak to me, and I kind of let him know, like, hey, I know your son. I play for your son at Temple. And he was like, oh, wow, really? Like, that's small world, right? That's really football. Football is really a small world. It's not as big as people think it is. So,
yeah.
But I loved him, man. Personality wise, he's a player's coach, man. He's one of those guys where he's not going to hoorah. He's not going to scream. He's gonna treat you like a pro. He's gonna treat you like a grown man. He's gonna expect you to walk in the building every day and do your job to the best of your ability, right? So I had no problem with adjusting to him and his staff. I mean, they treated me really well. They were super excited about having me. Even after my first day of practice, they were pretty much sold, like, yeah, this guy's a baller, man. We're gonna figure out a way to get him on the field, type of thing. So that's always the coaches that guys love to play for, man. Guys who can see the talent in a guy and recognize what he can bring to the table and give him that opportunity to do so, right? So it was fun, man. I enjoyed it. I think it was a great experience being around coaches who are Super Bowl winning coaches and have that type of upper echelon resume that you can learn some things, man. I'm a firm believer in, never, regardless of how old you are, you can always learn new tricks. So it was fun to be around.
Oh, so then you have the XFL kind of comes to a close, and now what was your reaction when you heard, because you had still hadn't signed with Edmonton just yet, because you had, so the bankruptcy went through, and then The Rock and Danny Garcia and Redbird Capital purchased the XFL. What was your reaction when you heard that news?
I was happy. I was happy because I feel like there's so many football players out here that don't get the opportunity to get a chance to play and do what they love, right? So I feel like for the amount of bodies that there are available to play, it's not enough job opportunities, right? So another league being able to provide guys the opportunity to get the film, get the exposure, and work on their craft and give them some type of springboard to get to where they ultimately want to get to, or realize that, at least they gave it their best shot and they realize, hey, maybe this is not in the cards for me in my future, right? So let me find something else. So I was excited. I was happy it was coming back. I was bummed out when it went down, to be honest. Like, I thought it was really good. I thought it was going to create some great competition. I thought it was going to, especially with those second tier leagues. And I thought, especially for the American guys, man, having the option to play in another league in the States outside of the NFL was going to be big. So, because a lot of guys just really don't want to go to Canada. A lot of guys don't want to have to go up there and play 2 years and hope that the film translates to that's another thing too. A lot of people don't realize NFL scouts are really hard on CFL film when it comes to how they want to translate it to their game, right? Because the CFL game has different nuances than American game, and sometimes American coaches and front personnel, they can't get past the 12 men on the field. They can't get past the wide field. They can't get past the motions, right? They can't get past the running back only having 12, 15 carries a game, right? So they can't see the bigger picture in the sense of how it relate for them. It's kind of like it has to be cookie cutter, right? So that's why you see so many former XFL guys signing in the NFL, right? Because to them, that they played the game that they're going to play in the league, right? So that to them, they can see the translation, right? So that's really why I was so excited about the league, and where you can have stories like a guy like a PJ Walker or a Jordan Tamu, or those types of stories, right? Or even the safety in St. Louis who got drafted by the Panthers, right? That was the type of opportunities that the XFL was creating that I felt like was sorely needed in the football community. So for hopefully Rock and Danny and them, that they're taking their time with putting it together, which is a good thing, because I think with this type of business venture, you got to be calculated. You got to make sure you're setting things up properly, so that way when you do get it off the ground, you won't run into too many hiccups, as if like the AAF did when they just tried to throw it out there as quick as they could and didn't really properly plan things out, right? So I'm excited to see what happens of it. I thought it would be a good thing if the XFL and the CFL actually found a way to kind of merge up and do some things. But I guess apparently they decided against it, right? So it's cool. It's great. I mean, there's enough room for both leagues to be able to do what they need to do. So I'm just happy that there's another place for guys to have an opportunity to play.
Yeah. So what was your reaction when you heard then all of a sudden the news about these two leagues that you played in? Because you're one of the few players that could actually say they played in both, that they were talking together. So what was your reaction when you heard that? Were you like, this is a good thing, this is bad?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was something that could have turned into, if they did it properly and they found a way to make it work. I mean, another big league next to the NFL probably won't compete with the NFL in a sense. I think NFL has kind of put themselves in a stratosphere that's kind of unreachable, right? But there is room to be able to be right below it, right? To be able to be essentially what MLS is to the world FIFA, right? So I thought that it would have been a good idea to do it. I thought that there was ways to make it work and figure it out. Again, I think the biggest hurdle with getting past was people wanting to not lose the significance of what Canadian football was, right? And the biggest significance to me was the fact that they have to have a requirement to have Canadian players, right? So I don't think they wanted to lose. They didn't want to lose that aspect of being able to have younger grassroots people have that opportunity to feel like there's a league built for them that they can go play in, right? Even though half of the league is made up of American players and most of the stars that you hear about are American players, right? So it's just one of those things, man. It would have been a good idea to explore. venture to figure out in some way, shape, or form, whatever they would have came up with. I think the long term benefit of it should have outweighed the short term, but I ain't in those positions to make those calls. So I mean, they decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah. And then you go and you sign with the Edmonton Elks. And I heard you on Rod Peterson kind of talking about that, about your status there. So I guess why don't you give fans, so our show is basically XFL geared, but these guys are really going to get into the CFL, because I think there's a market for fans who want to watch something other than the NFL and college football.
Right.
So I still think
Right.
fans, even though there's not that connection, they're still going to watch the CFL this year. So what's your status with Edmonton? You had recently said that you wanted to be traded. Can you give a kind of status update of where you're at in the CFL?
I mean, currently I'm not playing. I mean, I'm not in training camp. I'm not there. Trying to be a part of the team, and that's just simple the business side of things, right? So what a lot of people fail to realize is that as a pro football player, you got to start thinking outside the box, outside of your love and passion for the game, and just being able to put a helmet and shoulder pads on and tell somebody that you're a pro football player, right? Because now for me, I'm a young family man. I have 2 children. I just bought a new home. I have responsibilities that I need to take care of. That doesn't care if the coach wants to play me this week or not, or doesn't care if I'm in one country or another, or doesn't care that, that I just want to be able to play football, right? Those things that are minuscule now in the sense of the grand picture for my life and what's occurring in it. So I just wanted to be in a situation where I felt respected, where I felt appreciated, where I felt like they really wanted me there. And I just felt like after the initial wow of the situation, I just didn't like what was transpiring. I didn't like the direction things was going. I didn't like what was going on. I was being told one thing and something else was being done. And then when I would ask about why this was being done, I would get some answer about, not to worry about it, or just, that type of thing. And it's like, no, I've been around long enough, and I've been around a lot of situations that I've seen, it's cookie cutter. There's nothing that you haven't seen. If you've been around long enough, you've seen pretty much every scenario, right? So I know how to think outside the box and think outside the lines and look at a situation and know that it's not just for face value. There's something much deeper going on, right? So I didn't feel comfortable with putting myself in that situation. And regardless of what I tried to do to make myself comfortable with the situation, it just wasn't. It wasn't comfortable for my family. It wasn't comfortable for me. And I don't know, whatever agenda the team had, I just wasn't comfortable with it. So I just decided to step away. Essentially I ended up, retiring, even though not officially, I still want to play, but I had to retire because that was what I was essentially forced to do. So, that's really what it is. I'm just trying to find a way to, just remove myself from the situation so that it's not a burden to me. It's not a burden to them. But for some reason, I'm being held on to against my will for whatever reason. So I don't see the logic in it, but I mean, that's just what the situation is. So I'm just trying to get it figured out so that way I can at least have the freedom to at least go out on my own terms the way I wanted to, or continue playing if the opportunity is there. So that's just what the situation is.
So Edmonton, so there's no chance that you would play with Edmonton this year if there was some injuries happening or something like that, and they were saying, hey, well,
I mean, my biggest thing is I have, it's not a money thing. It's not like I want more money or anything like that. It's not a money thing. So if that's what people are thinking, that's not what it is. My situation is more catered to, I just wanted the language in the contract changed because the language that I was told was supposed to be in there wasn't the same for everybody, right? And that's what I was told. So when I found out that it wasn't the same for everybody, then it was more like, okay, well, why are you wording my stuff like this and you're not wording the next person's stuff like this? So what exactly is going on here type of thing. So, I don't think they're accustomed to most guys doing that. So that's why I think it became such a big deal, because most guys are just, for lack of better terms, shut up and play, right? I'm not a shut up and play kind of guy, man. I feel like I didn't go to college for no reason to get my education to be treated like I'm not smart enough to understand what's being done to me or what's being done around me, right? So I take offense to that. So that's why I'm really I'm not excited about joining the team or playing with them, because I just don't feel like it's a situation that's going to be very good for me, regardless of what's being told to me. I'm not seeing it. So, it's what my mom always told me growing up, man. Don't believe people's words, believe their actions. So that's how I'm moving.
So if this season plays out, then what would your status be next year in the CFL? Like, how would that work?
I mean, as far as it goes contractually, I'm still under contract with Edmonton until the end of the 2022 season. So right now, I think that's what their logic is, to hold on to my rights to see if I change my mind and come up and play. But then again, if I do come up and play, the contract that I have doesn't hold them accountable for anything. So they can say, yeah, we want you here, and then decide the next week, oh, we don't want you here, and then do essentially what I'm already asking them to do and let me go, right? So that's my logic, in the sense of there's nothing tying you to me. There's really nothing tying me to you outside of me signing this deal. If I don't want to play for the deal, then what is the point of holding on to me for whatever reason, right? Unless you think that you're getting a competitive advantage by not making me available to other teams, then I mean that's a weird competitive advantage to me. But that's I like I said, I'm not in those positions to make those choices, man. I just play football. So and I'm just hoping for the opportunity to play football at a place that's going to appreciate me and really want me there and show me that.
Well, what if you've heard, of course, of the USFL coming back, and Kevin Gilbride was part of the USFL. If the USFL came calling for the 2022 season, would that be a phone call that you would take? I mean, there's nothing that the CFL could do about it if you wanted to play in the USFL.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think there's something in CFL contracts to say, like, if you're under contract, you can't sign another one somewhere else. Because I did get a call from the Guardians staff, because they were doing the other league, the spring league. They was doing
TSL?
that.
You talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a call from them to come and do that. But again, too, my thing is what I tell everybody, man. It has to make sense for me to be able to take care of my family, right? So I'm not in the business of playing for free right now, playing for fun. I'm in the business of playing to take care of my loved ones. So gotcha. If it's an opportunity to be able to do that, then yeah, sure, I would definitely consider it.
Gotcha. And then so now that you're kind of in this limbo, I guess, why don't you tell people what you've got planned coming up as far as your podcasts go, and doing some stuff with us on CFL News Hub?
Yeah, man, I went to college for broadcast journalism, so this is kind of like my passion. This is stuff that I've always really been into, even since I was a kid. So just trying to make use of the time that I have, right? Try to help create a resume for myself. To see if I could find my way, find a crack in the door in the media world, and get myself in there and start working and doing that type of stuff. As after football, life. So just right now, just at home working, trying to come up with ways to create some content to kind of diversify myself, and kind of put me somewhere where people can view me as someone in the future that they would want to have part of their network, or whatever it may be, right? So media has always been my true passion, has always been the career that I really wanted to do for the majority of my life outside of playing football. So I'm just trying to find ways to just, like I said, build my portfolio and get my name out there and get people to see if people really want to listen to what I have to say.
So you were talking about two podcasts that you were interested in, and one was kind of a player focused on the offensive line play, and another one was just kind of general. Is that kind of where you think you're taking things?
Yeah, right now, I'm in the process of starting a new show. I feel like, especially in the CFL or like second tier football leagues, offensive line play doesn't get the attention that I think it deserves. And that's always one of the positions in football. I feel like you need guys who know what they're doing and know how to play well and know how to play as a unit, right? So I just want to be able to impart some of the knowledge that I have on a grand scale, to kind of talk the game of football with guys who have played it, talk the game of football, and put material out there to just highlight those unsung heroes, in a sense, right? So I feel like offensive line guys don't get enough love, they don't get enough attention, and I want to find a way to make it to where you look at your starting left guard the same way you look at your X or Y receiver, right? Or your corner and your safety, right? I want them to get the same type of love and appreciation that those guys get from the media on a day-to-day basis. So I'm just trying to find ways to just put that out there. And then I had a podcast that I started a couple years ago that I've been on and off with called Insights from the Locker Room, where I just kind of bring in guys from different sports that I've known, guys that I've trained with in the past, guys that I play baseball and soccer and hockey and all these different types of sports, and just bring them in there to kind of give a inside look to what life is like in the locker room with those types of athletes, and what are some of the things they like to do, and what are some of the trials and tribulations that you got to go through to play certain sports, or just kind of give people who've gone through that journey of chasing this dream that we've had since we were kids the chance to kind of just put this story out there.
That sounds good stuff. I'm definitely excited for you to help be part of the CFL News Hub, and we can help promote your podcast out there. Final question. Who is going to win the Grey Cup this year?
Honestly, I think I would say my favorite, and not to be cliche, but I think Hamilton is probably the favorite to win it, especially because it's a home Grey Cup. And the only thing is, not many teams have played in a Grey Cup at home, right? So that's the one thing. I think the last team to do it was Saskatchewan in like 2013, right? So playing in a home Grey Cup is definitely going to be a challenge, especially. I know what that pressure is like, because that's what we went through in Calgary in 2019, because the Grey Cup was in Calgary. So everybody was, we were the favorite team. Everybody expected us to, push for a Grey Cup date at home. And we fell a game short of it. Right. So that's that pressure that comes with a team is definitely something to look out for. I think structurally wise, they brought back the same team that played in the Grey Cup the previous season that was played. So of course you would look at them as the favorite. So I would probably say Hamilton, but dark horse, I would either go with the Saskatchewan Roughriders or the Montreal Alouettes.
Oh,
now, granted, yeah, I think Montreal is a very, very sneaky team, especially too now, because you don't hear a lot of news coming out of Montreal in the sense of their camp. Everything, all that information is really tight knit right now, right? The only thing you're hearing about is just whatever cuts they made, but in the sense of like practice and what's going on with players and stuff like that, you're not really hearing too much noise and hoopla out of Montreal, right? And I think there's a reason for that. I think they understand that they have a unique opportunity to be able to, push for a Grey Cup, especially in the East Division. I think they're definitely a team that can push Hamilton, that can push Toronto. But if I had to pick someone out of the box that no one's thinking about, I think I would go with the Montreal Alouettes.
Oh, interesting pick. All right, well, Derek Dennis, thanks. I appreciate you being on the show. And where can people find you, aside from when you get your podcast out? Where can people find you on social media?
So you can find me on Twitter at 6bonecrusher3. You can find me on Instagram at 6bonecrusher4. You can find me on Facebook. I have a fan page, Derek Bonecrusher Dennis fan page on Facebook. I have a regular page on Facebook. I'm pretty accessible. Most people know I go back and forth with any and everybody, man. I feel like fan engagement is something that a lot of players lack because they're too scared to say something that they think is going to get them in trouble, or they just don't want to make themselves look a certain way. Me, I'm a typical New Yorker, man. I really don't care, man.
I'm right there with you.
I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna say what I want, and nobody's really gonna waver me, right? And I feel like I do it in a good enough way to make it playful, make it fun, even when it's just banter back and forth with a random bot on Twitter or something, right? Is in my way. I'm creating a lane for myself to make people want to see what I'm talking about, see what I'm saying, or be witty enough to where people go, you know what, that guy, that's pretty funny what he said back to that fan, even though that fan was kind of ragging on him, right? That's the lane that I'm in, right? So, it's just always the kind of big brand picture, right? Built into the grand picture of it. So you can find me on any social media, hit me up. I think part of my new podcast show, I'm going to start doing like weekly live streams, and they'll be broadcasted over all my social media platforms. So once I stream live, you'll see it over, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think I'm in the process of, I'm going to try to create a YouTube page as well. Just trying to get out there and just pump some content out and just kind of just throw my hat in the ring.
All right, great. All right, Derek, thanks so much for being on the show.
All right, man. Appreciate you having me.
Sure. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we're back. We want to once again thank Derek Dennis for being on the show, and I'm super excited to be helping him launch his podcast, his return to one podcast, and of course the Offensive Lineman podcast on CFL News Hub. So when those shows come out, they'll be live also on CFL News Hub. We'll have it on there, promoting on all our social channels. So we're super excited to add him to the family. It's just going to be, just like Markcast is on the XFL News Hub site. I mean, we even promote, Markcast on the CFL side of things too, because they're doing a lot of that as well. So again, just trying to give people a platform to put their stuff out there. And I think Derek Dennis has got a lot to say. He's a New Yorker just like me, and we both, we have a lot to say. We don't care what people think. And I think what I'm really interested about it is Offensive Line podcast, because I was kind of thinking about this. Like, offensive linemen are like more like everybody is like, oh, the wide receiver, deep defensive backs and all this. Offensive lineman is like the number one, and it's the hardest position to fill with good players. And if you have a bad offensive line, your team stinks. And it's almost like a sound guy, because I do sound at church that I volunteer at. So I mix the band, and mixing is critical to the band. If you have a bad sound guy, I was at a adult establishment with adult beverages at a bar the other day, last week, and the guy who was mixing sound was sitting there playing on his phone. And there's one guy who was playing guitar, I couldn't even hear him. And it was just, it made the band sound bad because the sound guy wasn't doing his job. And it's the same thing with offensive line play, is that we don't realize how critical that play is to a good football team. Have you ever heard of a Grey Cup champion or a Spring League champion, or I can't say XFL, NFL champion team that they weren't like, wow, the offensive line is really good? You've never heard that. And so to have a podcast that's focused on that, I mean, I'm tuning in. I don't know about you guys. So again, excited about what he's got coming up and being part of CFL News Hub, and so many interesting things to talk about. He was the one guy from the XFL I wanted to talk to the most, because he had played in the XFL and he was in the CFL. And I never saw anybody ask him why he made that jump. And so there you have it. So it was great to have him on. Hopefully on the CFL side of things, we'll have him on again when we can talk during the CFL season on that side of things. So, hey, what's up, chat room? Richard Paladin Demo says, I'm late. Sorry, I'm late. How could you? You're late, young man. Very bad. Chris is checking in. We'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. But first, let's get into some of that social media stuff, shall we? What's going on in the social media realm of things? Oh, where is that? Okay. Why didn't that work? Interesting. Okay. Not really sure why that. I just got so not only on top of everything else with the server issues. Yeah, I'm going to blab for a second. The server issues over the weekend. I got a new monitor. Super excited. 27-inch monitor. Because, you guys see me with the glasses. And I plug it in and I'm getting ready to do the show. And the software that runs the show, basically, like half of it wasn't working. So then I had to unplug, grab the old one, and it was just I'm like, man, I'm just ready to like go to bed. And then I got my teeth fixed in the front. You got brushed those teeth. Got a little fillings put in, and that. So it's not been a good couple days for Mark, but life is good, God is good, and hey, I got my teeth fixed. I'm glad I can afford it. I'm glad I still have teeth. That's always a thing. I've seen people without teeth, and I go, Anyways, on to the social media. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. All right, on this question about the USFL, a lot of you guys are excited about it, and which makes me always remind people that America is thirsty for a spring league, and we got, the CFL it would have played in the spring summer. Like, fans are into it. So, and they're excited about the USFL. I'm not as excited. I'm more bearish when it comes to the USFL than bullish. Zach says, I'm all in with whatever gives St. Louis a team first, but I do know that for sure at some point down the line, one of these leagues is going to end up folding, and I'm prepared to put whatever money is tied up in 1 week straight into the other if and when it happens. I think that is basically a great point. That's on the Facebooks. That is a great point, and I think a lot of fans are doing that. They want something, and they'll be all in. People have gotten burned by the AAF. They got burned by the XFL, and a lot of what Markcast was talking, and we're getting to that here. People are starting to get pissed at the XFL. Okay, the CFL thing went through, or we understand. I mean, there was like a whimper when it comes to 2023, and now fans are kind of like, all right, like, what's the deal? Like, they're getting a little frustrated, and you can't go to the well too much. And that's why I think the XFL needs to make a big, bold move this month in August. I'm not saying wait, maybe the latest October, but no. You need to make a move in August. Otherwise, will they come back? Yes. I'm sure if you have a big announcement in November, they'll come back. But these guys have been waiting, and there's been radio silence. And so anyway, is your child texting about the XFL? I think I saw this on Reddit or something. It's pretty funny. It's on here. Let's see. Bryce says, I'm kind of sad about the obvious one that was meant to be on there was Caw for the Battlehawks. Yeah, BRB, bitchin' return, bro. ROFL, replay official, FN love it. TBH, thinking about halftime. MB, McLoin's blaming. Again, that's pretty funny. SMDH, shared Marquette's dope highlights. Yes. YWD, Walker's yeeting dimes. WTF, why isn't Tressman fired? Some really good stuff there on the social media stuff. Man, can't wait to get back in the swing of things. Hopefully soon we have some things to talk about. On to the YouTubes about our Chris Wood interview last week. Appreciate everybody checking in. Appreciate him being on. That was a good interview. People liked it. Got a good reaction. Let's see. Isaiah says, also, I am the MLFB. I would try to partner up with the XFL or USFL. It seems like the best solution to me. Same thing goes for the Freedom Football League. Little Bit says, I don't even think those leagues are going to launch. Maybe they can share ideas. Football Reality Check. Just shut up, kid. XFL and USFL already have their own 2 separate broadcast deal. They cannot rip those up. That's not very nice. Football Reality Check. And then they go on to the... And that's that. So, yeah, he needs to relax a little bit. Football Reality Check needs to relax. Theodore says, Rock and Garcia are figureheads. Most of the work is done in the backgrounds by the hardworking underlings. It's just like any other business. Normal, the boss cuts out early to play golf. Rock prefers to make movies. Okay. And Football Reality says, most actors have a ton of free time. He's not very nice. They only need to spend a few weeks of the year working on movies. I think The Rock is a very busy guy, and so is Danny Garcia. I don't think Football Reality Check knows what he's talking about, but okay. And Jack, as always, nice video. Thank you, Jack, for checking in. As always, on the Instagram, lots of reaction to the USFL thing. Are you all in for the USFL, or you're waiting and seeing? A bunch of stuff. Con football, I'm all in, but I don't like that the XFL and USFL are separate. Fred J MZ underscore 1776 can't wait for the USFL has a store for us. I'm hoping that team gets San Antonio gets a team. America Guys 1776 can't wait to watch the USFL. Hope they put a team in Texas, especially San Antonio. There you go. Hey, the XFL was looking at San Antonio, so you know. I'm sure they will too. I'm a lifelong and proud American pro football fan. I totally support the rise and return of both the XFL and USFL as existence of both leagues. Players a chance to fulfill their dreams. Pro football here in America provide competition and choice against the NFL and gives pro-American fans a chance to enjoy second, third major pro football league here in the United States, in my view. All right. A bunch of hashtags there. If idiots start disrespecting the flag. Oh, okay, well, there we go. Huge fan of the original USFL. Looking forward to its return. XFL underscore, that's JB Tolly. XFL underscore fanatic. They have a chance to deliver the goods. We shall see. All right, there. And Kyle Schlanderling says, all in. So you can see fans are super excited about what's to come with the USFL. I'm just telling y'all, like, yo, don't get your total hopes up just yet because I'm not really sure how this is going to go. We haven't really heard anything on the USFL side in a little while. I think things will start to ramp up now that I think you got basically a week or two, and then kind of vacations and holidays and summer is kind of coming to a close, and I think we'll start to see some more stuff on there. Our own Josh Davis was mentioned in Pat McAfee's show. So Pat McAfee had a clip on there that the NFL is turning to the Hawkeye replay system that was used at XFL and major tennis tournaments. Replay should be an asset to the league as opposed to what was which. So this was seen by 100,000 people. And who was the author of what was seen? Oh, I can't show it there because it's cut off. But it was Josh Davis' article on XFL News Hub. So it was pretty cool to see Pat McAfee talk about an article from XFL News Hub. We were all excited here. These are the little things us guys, our writers, when they get, talked about in some sports place, or especially a guy like Pat McAfee, who's got a huge following there, that that he took and talked about an article from XFL News Hub. It's really cool there. Oh man, this is like, let's see if I can fix this a little bit. No. Man, my little social thing, I don't know why it doesn't work. Oh, wait. I might be able to fix it. There we go. Fixed it sort of, but not really. Oh, there we go. Okay. I fixed it, my friends. I fixed it. No worries. On to more Twitter stuff. MB Mick D1 has some great freaking pictures he's doing. Talking about Mike Mitchell's article about who made CFL rosters. We don't know why, but check out this picture. See, it gets cut off on there, but it says American Stars of the CFL, and they're running, and give them time, running into the goalpost. Great stuff. Actually, if MG Mick CD1, I'll tell you what. If anybody knows him, and I'll reach out to him. If he can get me, if he does a painting of something, I'll put it up. I'll give him money, and I'll put it up here somewhere. If he gives me some kind of XFL, CFL thing, a painting, I don't know what. He's a great artist. I would love to have his stuff up here somewhere. We'll put it on there. So, very cool. Great artist. Maybe we should have him do some art for us here. We should call me. All right, on to more people getting upset about the Steven. Sach J. Steven says, talking about Richard Humphrey, talking about it's so true. Why do I keep saying that The Rock, Danny Garcia, Redbird Capital needs to tell fans about what they are going to do for the league? Maybe they just need to listen to XFL or Markcast so they can understand how the fans feel. He's saying, hey, he says, I hear you, but The Rock is not going to be the day-to-day for the XFL. He literally is just a figurehead without Rock. The Rock, Danny wouldn't have bought the league. I think she still would have bought the league, even with him, but they're partners. And then they said they will probably put news out closer to 2022. And It's Me, Pocono Pete says yes, and completely losing all momentum they built last year. I'm amazed for a company that is supposed to be marketing specialists. They are missing the boat so big on maintaining excitement. That is a great point. That is a great point. I can't say anything to that. That's a great point. Richard checking in says, it's me, Pocono Pete says, yeah, it's been very depressing. 1 year of ownership and about 5 tweets and nothing more. The opposite of what I was expecting. I agree with that too. Richard says, hell yeah, I agree with the news and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just been frustrating. On my XFL, SFL versus XFL, who will win in the end? Pudge is real name says, personally, I'm on the side of the USFL and Fox. They might be rushing it a bit, but they will have the first dibs on great quality of players and coaches, and Redbird might have deep pockets, but Fox has deeper pockets. True, it's just a question of what are they willing to spend. And we don't know how much they're spending when it comes to the USFL. And there's supposedly other ownership people involved in this too, but we don't know who they are and how much money they're putting in. We'll have to wait and see. Who's going to make the first announcement? Is it going to be the USFL or is it going to be the XFL? Who's going to make the first major announcement? They both have to mention something by October. Something big by October. If the USFL is not selling merch by October, I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling it. If they're not season tickets and merch by October, you're missing out on the biggest, and you're not ready for it. You're just totally letting money and excitement go out the door. That's how you're going to bring people in. People are going to buy merch, give it to their family and friends as gifts, and then that's going to get people hyped about your product. So not having that would just be a big mistake, in my opinion. Tuju Master Seth Cyber Guy Lysaon says, I hope it's the hope that kills you. Yeah, I hear that. XFL Jim says, I have love for one, but the USFL could be the ultimate side chick. USFL Jim ecstatic for this league. Oh my goodness. And then Zach Kellerman says, just saying that makes me want to see you encounter your alter ego. Pretty funny stuff there. And finally, Libe723, Dave Lib says, any team news announcements? Nada, nothing, zilch, my friend, nothing on there at all. Radio silence, as always, for now, for both sides. And now that they have the NFL season kicking in, who knows what's going to happen. So that's the news there. On to the chat room real quick. We'll get that. We got a couple emails, too. Remember, smash the like button. Give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that. And check out our CFL channel. We'll have a live show on Wednesday at 8 p.m. previewing the game in the CFL, Hamilton Tiger Cats versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Let's see here. Paladin Demo says regional draft can help, but nationwide brings in more. Richard says XFL needs to have news about if they're going to have 8 or 10 teams. Yeah, even anything. Chris Mason says XFL needs a regional draft. Stuff like that would be cool. Yeah, I mean, even if the XFL were to come out right now in August and say we're expanding to 10 teams, and that's it. That's all you need to do. You got to pump it a little bit. That's it. Or hiring's coming soon. Or, just any little thing would be good. But I think that the reason why we're not hearing anything is because they have been unable to line up a television deal. I think that's the crux. And without a television deal that the numbers work for them, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger. And what they want. And I think they're offering people, and maybe people, they're just like, especially with what's going on, and maybe they're feeling that, budgets are going to be cut. They're not willing to spend. I rock Danny Garcia, and I don't want to spend other people's money. But as somebody who's a business owner who is making zilch off of this CFL venture, that's all, I'm paying all those guys out of my pocket. Because it's a money loser, because it's basically a brand new site. It's still in the, and I'm sure the Redbird and all of them has already spent money, but on the CFL side, absolutely losing lots of money on that. But I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm hoping that it will turn around. And I mean, if you're not going to get the TV deal, just front your own money to get this thing going, and eventually you'll get the TV deal. And I'm sure they know that too. Jonathan says USFL Spring 2022 is a good opportunity. 8 teams, probably 10 games, and CFL 2022. Yeah, we'll have that. So you have the USFL. We're covering all of that on XFL News Hub. And then you'll have the CFL kick off in 2022. So we'll have that. And the Spring League was great for our website. It was fantastic for our website. That kind of kept the lights on for 2 months. And now that it's gone, traffic has just dwindled to nothing. But that's why we're doing the CFL thing, because I want to keep my guys. I want to keep them paid, and I want to keep my guys, and I'll use other means to pay them if I need to. Chris Mason says USFL/CFL merger. No, that's not going to happen. Paladin Demo, USFL starting off with 4 proof of concept from the looks of it. That 4 teams is nothing. I think 8 is the way it will be there. All right. Chris says arena football is exciting. I'd probably go check out some of those games there. All right, let's get to some emailers, shall we? I'd like to get to our email. Kendrick says, I was trying to play football North League. All right, I don't know what's going on with a North League, but okay there. Let's see here. Fourth and Long says, like seeing Cam Phillips get on a CFL active roster. Question, how many of the 45 were in TSL in 2020 or 2021? I don't think any of these. I'd be curious. That's a great question. How many? Any of the 45. I don't think any of them were in the Spring League. That'd be a great question. We would have to ask Josh Davis. How many guys are in the CFL that played in the Spring League? Or maybe we can get that from the Spring League themselves. We'll have to reach out to them, but that's a great question there. On the Dallas Renegades thing, we got a comment that says, awesome stuff, Mark. Love watching Coach Wood's defense raise hell in 2020. Best in the league considering what they had to deal with. Hope he and Coach Stoops will come back to Dallas in 2023. Make it happen, Rock. Yes, I agree with him there. And then Clint says, Mark, still loving the XFL News Hub podcast. I always put it up on the top of the playlist when it comes out. Excellent. A little light on broadcasters. Disney is spreading out its sports coverage across its different channels and not focusing them on just ESPN. Sunday Night Baseball is moving away from ESPN and going to ABC. Okay. Its upcoming new contract with the NHL, some games will be on Hulu. Other events and games can/will move to ESPN Plus and Hulu as ESPN sub fees continue to grow smaller and smaller as less people have cable subscriptions. That's true. The idea behind the moves is to grow these channels in an effort to recoup the sub fees lost by ESPN and increase subs on Hulu, ESPN Plus, and other corporate-owned outlets. Interesting, and he's got a article from Yahoo on that. Also, NBC is shuttering his NBC Sports Network and moving events to the Peacock and other outlets. Oh, CBS could be a big factor, needing sports help to fill that void. Golf and international soccer, along with the NFL, is the only big ticket items they have. Warner Media, in the process of merging with Discovery Network, is moving some of its Turner sports coverage to HBO Max. So when new leadership takes over, they could be a huge player. God bless. And have a great day. God bless to you, Clint, as well, my friend, my brother. Yeah, actually, there's some great content here, and something really to think about is that because they're losing subscribers, now they're moving content to paid to make up the difference. That makes total sense. And they can so why wouldn't you? If you are any of these guys, peacock and be like, you're the exclusive home to the XFL, and you just play one game or two games on NBC. What do you got going on a Sunday or Saturday at 2:00? You got nothing going on. Throw on an XFL game and throw one on Sunday night and one on Saturday, one on Sunday, and the rest on Peacock. That's how you get your subscribers. People are willing. You see how many people sign up for Netflix. I hope it's some unique and innovative deal. But again, if you guys, and I've asked this question before, I give you 10 mil. I give you 10 million Dogecoin, and you can invest it give it to The Rock, Danny Garcia, Redbird, or the USFL. I've asked this about the CFL. Who would you do it? I would still give it to the Danny The Rock and Redbird Capital. They've been hiring. I as much as I criticize them for, hey, if you're going to have to front the cash, just use your own money. I'm not going to spend other rich people's money. The Redbird has already spent money. I mean, they've hired some big hitting consultants. Now, granted, they're going to help them with other things as well, but clearly they're helping them with the XFL as well. So, I mean, they were brought in for probably multiple things, but I'm sure they've spent some money. I mean, they've gotten heavy hitters across the board to help them with this. So who knows what the deal is? But we just want some news. That's all. Just give us something. Anything. It'll be good. Back to our pals in the chat room. XFL Fan Talk. Hate you have to pay to watch ELF. You don't. We do have to pay, and you can pay in the United States. However, you can go to CFL News Hub and get your results from all the ELF from Matt Lyons and Josh Davis. They got all of that so far. Richard said Sea Devils is still undefeated. Jonathan says East Division is much weaker than the West in the CFL for those that follow the CFL. He says, thanks, Derek. This is from Chris. Paladin, no update on the Orlando Rage project yet. Working on bruises. We'll have something for next week. An original team. Cool. Richard says, just like I said, they are just telling us about movies, magazines, clothes, and drinks. We just need news about the league. Maybe they needs to listen to the XFL News Hub and the Markcast. True there. Cool. He said, get a P.O. box and I'll send you a DC Defenders themed Blood Bowl team. Heck yeah. I'd want that. I'll put them up here somewhere on my little shelf. There you go. And that's it. So that's it for all of our friends in the chat room. Thanks for hanging out with us there. Appreciate you checking in. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, you email us, podcast@XFL News Hub, or call 888-430-7692, extension 3. Follow us everywhere on Facebook. You know the deal. We're everywhere, live on Facebook and Twitter. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We will read it on the show, and you can find us everywhere. Remember, question for next week is, are you watching the CFL? And I want to get your thoughts. Be honest. Remember, it's on ESPN Plus Thursday night at 8:30-ish or something like that, or 8 or 8:30. The game is on ESPN Plus. You can figure it out how to get it. I have Roku on every TV, so I just have ESPN on there. So check out the CFL games and give us your thoughts on next week's show. I want to hear what XFL fans think of the CFL games, what they like, what you didn't like about it. Remember, give us a like on Facebook and YouTube. Just take a second and go give us a like. It helps spread the word. And subscribe to our channel. We appreciate the subscribers that get you alerts when the show exactly comes out. You get the alert, hit that notification bell, and then get you that as well. XFLnewshub.com/XFL-podcast. We got our Discord up there. And again, thanks Derek Dennis for hanging out and talking with us. One of the guys I wanted to talk to most. There's a couple other guys out there. And here's the funny thing too, is we had we were going to have an XFL player do a podcast on XFL News Hub, and we were close to making that happen when things kind of turned downhill. So we definitely want to do that more on CFL News Hub and XFL News Hub once that comes up. But in the meantime, we're focused a lot on the CFL until we get some XFL news or some USFL news. That's it for me, folks. But yeah, so we did have a XFL player that was going to do a podcast on our XFL News Hub during the season, and we were going to pull the trigger on that, and then everything got down, and that was it. And it was all over. So thanks for listening. God bless, and thanks for watching. Thanks for everybody hanging out in the chat. We'll see you on Monday. Remember, the CFL podcast is 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Sign up for that as well. That's it for me, folks, and I will see you all later.